Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this week's session on how to not only prepare for, but truly master virtual career fairs and other employer engagement opportunities. Heroes Make America created workshops like this to support our broader military community by sharing practical tools and strategies to help you in your next career. So whether you're in the process of separating from the military, already transitioned out, or maybe you're a military spouse navigating the career challenges that come from the frequent moves, this event is designed to give you insights on how to stay competitive in today's job market. And in really today's world, knowing how to present yourself effectively in a virtual environment is more important than ever. So once again, welcome. My name is Kay Bowerman. I'm a senior manager with the Heroes Make America program, and I'm excited to be with you today. And I'll be one of your hosts for today's events. But before we dive into the presentation, I'm going to take a moment to have my co-presenter introduce herself. Rachel, come on and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Wolford, and I am the Director of Program Operations for the Heroes Make America program, currently located in Fort Riley, Kansas. And I oversee all of our DoD SkillBridge programs while focusing on process and operational improvements. So excited to be leading today alongside Katie.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. All right, so let's go ahead and cover some general participation guidelines before we jump into the event. So first off, just so you know, the event is being recorded. You probably got that announcement when you first came in because we're going to send it out as a recap email. So because of that, be sure you stay muted throughout the presentation to minimize any background noise. However, although you're staying muted, I encourage you to still be an active participant. Sorry. Use the chat feature. We love questions. So if you have a question, throw it in the chat throughout the presentation because Rachel and I will address that while we're talking about that topic. So keep it top of mind, throw it in the chat, and then we'll come back after. If we didn't hit any during the presentation, we'll come back during a Q&A session at the end. But don't be shy. This event is to help make sure that you are ready for this next event and other virtual employer events that you might participate in. So we love questions. I do want to take a moment to highlight Heroes Make America and our mission, in case you don't know who Heroes Make America is, but our goal is to build strong connections between the military community and the manufacturing industry. So there's a couple different ways that we do this. And some of you may be our current students in our signature DoD approved SkillBridge and Army CSP training program, but we do have 7 locations nationwide. 5 of those are in person, 2 are virtual, and we train transitioning service members, veterans, and military spouses in high demands such as manufacturing operations, industrial systems, logistics, and airframe and power plant. We also do pretty much weekly Heroes Connect events where we highlight one company each week for you all to learn more about and connect with. If you weren't familiar with it, we also have a resume distribution list. Oh, in addition to the career fairs that we'll talk about, we have virtual and in-person career fairs. And then we also have a resume distribution list to allow you as a job seeker to join and connect you with our partner manufacturers who are actively hiring. And then lastly, we have our manufacturing readiness badges. Through the Map My Future platform, service members may qualify for readiness badges that really recognizes the skills that you've gained through your military experience. I bring those up because the goal is to get a job, right? And we have multiple avenues that you can participate in to help explore the industry, connect with employers, and really get your name out there to help with this next step post-military. All right. So why are we hosting this event? I've kind of touched on it a little bit, but the main reason is to help you prepare for 2 upcoming events that we have scheduled with our program. But really, it can be used for a lot of different things. We do have a National Virtual Career Fair this Friday, August 22nd, from 11 to 2. And about a month, we'll have an in-person career fair at Fort Bragg on September 18th. So if you're local to Fort Bragg, make sure you mark your calendars for September 18th. But then all of you mark your calendars for this Friday, August 22nd, from 11 to 2 is the virtual career fair. On the slide, you'll see the employers already registered for each event. So check out the website though for the full list, and it has links to the company pages, their career pages. We'll talk about it more throughout the presentation today, but really a huge reminder right off the bat is don't judge a book by its cover. That's going to come up several times today. If you don't immediately recognize a company name, so maybe a logo on here, you're like, I've never even seen that before. It is worth doing some research. You might discover that one of these companies is the perfect fit for what you're looking. So we're going to revisit that concept of don't judge a book by its cover. Manufacturing is known for company names not telling the whole story and you not even knowing what they are making and what part of the industry they are part of simply because of their name. So we'll come up with that a few times. All right. One last note though, most virtual career fairs and many in-person ones, honestly, require registration. So as part of that process, it's really critical that you go in, register early, upload your resume if it has that option, and make sure that you log back and update that registration if you need to before the event. So if you have changes to your resumes, go back into the event registration and actually update it. But make sure that you get that done because that typically goes to the employers. So to get your name out there, to get your resume over to these employers, registration is key. And then of course, getting the meeting link, but then also so the employers have your resume on hand so they know all the great things that you've done. So what happens if you've registered for an upcoming career fair? I forgot my resume. Maybe I forgot to attach it when I went in. Don't you stress. You can still fix that. So for ours specifically, you should have gotten an email after you registered, a confirmation email with the Zoom meeting link. If you registered a while ago, you may want to go back and locate that email just so you have that link, readily available for Friday. But you'll get another reminder, more than likely the morning of, saying, "Don't forget you have an event this morning at 11," and it'll resend you the Zoom link. Okay, but you want to go back to that original one because you can see here on the bottom left there is the option to modify your registration. So if you're like, "Ooh, I didn't submit my resume," go back to that original email, click the modify registration, and you simply upload it. And I do recommend uploading it as a PDF so your format doesn't change, as you submit it and it doesn't pull up weird or anything. So just make sure that you do it as a PDF. So make sure you go back, check it out, that your resume is on there. But yeah, that's some of the basics. I just wanted to intro with that. But let's move on to today's main topic, where I'm actually going to hand things over to Rachel, who's going to talk to us about preparing for the first part of the virtual career fair. So Rachel, over to you.
Thanks, Katie. So, as the slide alludes to, achieving success at in-person career fairs and virtual career fairs can really be divided into three key buckets. And Katie and I are going to pass it back and forth a little bit, but we'll start with before the event, during the event, and then especially what to do after the event. Next slide, Katie. All right, so we're going to spend a little time walking through some key steps to help you really stand out. This is all about preparation, gearing up, polishing your documents, and then doing the right research before the event. It's time to level up and get ready to navigate our virtual career fairs like a pro. So after today's call, you're going to get an email like the one shown here. It will include an attachment with key information about the employers that are currently scheduled for the event. If you don't see it later today, be sure to check your spam or junk folders. We'll also drop a copy of the attachment into the chat right now. So if you haven't registered, you can kind of take a peek at what employers we're going to have. And you're also welcome to share this email with others who might benefit from the event. The registration link is included right inside. Now that you know what to look for, let's dive into how to actually use this information. So the employer details attachment gives you critical info to help you start researching before the event. You'll also see a dedicated point of contact for each organization. This is perfect for following up afterwards. We'll get to that soon. For now, let's focus on pre-event prep. We recommend checking out each employer's career site. Katie said it earlier. Even if they mention specific openings in specific regions, keep your options open. You never know what opportunities you'll uncover unless you explore. Also, make sure that you take the time to really read through job descriptions. Job titles can sometimes be misleading, and the description is where you're going to see if your skills and experience actually align. And remember, even if a company doesn't have your dream role right now, there's a great chance to practice networking. Use the time to refine your elevator pitch, highlight your skills, and ask employers where they see you as a potential fit, right? We talked about job descriptions and job titles being misleading. Go into our breakout rooms when you get into the event and you can tell them about yourself and ask them, what types of roles do you think I'd be the right fit for? The more you practice sharing your value, the stronger you'll get. Finally, spend a few minutes on their About page to get a sense of who they really are as a company. Let's take a look at what those pages might look like on the next slide. All right, perfect. So doing your research isn't just prep, it's strategy. The more you dive into company details like mission, culture, job duties, and values, the more confident and credible you'll come across in conversations and applications. It also equips you to tailor your resume, ask insightful questions, and find roles that genuinely align with your goals. Meta analysis actually shows that job search quality, which includes researching employers, clarifying goals, and targeting the right roles, correlates with more interviews, job offers, and improved employment outcomes. While exact numbers vary, there's a clear link between thoughtful preparation and success. So, with the About section of an employer's website, think of the About page as your initial intel hub. It's going to give you insight into the company's mission, their values, culture, and vision for the future. Pay attention to the tone and themes. They'll help you assess if the organization aligns with your own values and growth ambitions. Plus, this info makes your outreach more personalized and authentic, right? Going into an interview or going into a conversation and being able to show that you've actually done research is going to make you stand out. And then when we talk about the careers page, this is really your go to for current openings, yes, but it's also far more than that, okay? Company career pages often showcase development programs, employee testimonials, DE&I efforts, and other hallmarks of a supportive workplace. Exploring beyond job titles can clue you into cultural fit and growth potential. And then once again, I'm going to reiterate this, but don't be fooled by titles. Job titles can be misleading or too generic. Always dig into the actual job description. It's the best way to assess whether your skills and experience truly match what they're looking for. By doing your research early and deeply, you're not just going through the motions, you're setting yourself up to stand out. Whether it's messaging with meaning, aligning with company culture, or just knowing your stuff in the moment, attention matters. Next slide, Katie. So you've started researching our participating companies. Great. The next step is to create what we call your information sheet. Think of this as your quick access cheat sheet for the event. There's a couple of critical pieces of information that this sheet should include. First and foremost is going to be your contact info. So name, professional email. I know some of us have emails from 14 years ago. I think the first one I created was like KU Craze, huge Jayhawks fan, not the most professional email. So make sure it's a professional email. I usually recommend first name, middle initial, and last name. And it's never a bad idea to dedicate a specific or create a specific email as you start the job search process. If you have an email from 14 years ago, like me, you probably get like 1,000 spam emails a day, and you don't want to miss critical information from an employer because you're using an email that gets so overwhelmed with other types of emails. And then put your LinkedIn URL on there. Um, and you can also include your phone number. Now, I would be hesitant to drop my phone number directly into a chat that everybody is in, but there is usually a direct message feature where you could drop that as well. You can also send that in a follow-up email as well. And then, of course, make sure you're checking your email daily, Monday through Friday. You want to be prompt with your responses to employers as well. Also, on this document, we would encourage you to include your 30-second elevator pitch, a quick intro that covers who you are, what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and who you do it for. The reason for this is sometimes in those breakout rooms or even at a career fair, things can get a little busy, a little chaotic. So, like on the virtual career fairs, you could drop that into the chat, right? With the goal of the company reading it and wanting to connect with you. Um, have some company specific notes, right? List any roles you're interested in or types of roles you want to ask them about. Even if they're not posted yet, employers are constantly hiring and adding new jobs. So keep that network open. And then questions for employers, right? Networking is a two-way conversation. So use this time to learn whether the company is the right fit for you. It's always important to have those questions. And then a space for you to capture info. So use this document to collect recruiter and employer details that you gather in the breakout rooms. If they're dropping their LinkedIn um, contact info in there, make sure to capture all of that, their emails, capture all that. You're going to want to connect with everybody that you engage with at this event. Our team is also dropping some helpful resources in the chat to guide you, like tips for crafting your elevator pitch and smart questions to ask in an interview or breakout rooms. This sheet's going to be essential once you move into the breakout rooms. It keeps you organized, helps you look prepared, and once again makes it very easy to copy and paste into a chat or email as needed. And then what are some other best practices for a successful virtual career fair based on our experience and participant feedback? Use a computer if possible for easier access to chat in breakout rooms. If you're on your phone, make sure that your Zoom app is updated or you won't necessarily see the breakout rooms. We do encourage using a virtual background to minimize distractions, or you could even use that blur feature. Rename yourself. So, just kind of scouring through our list here, it looks like everybody has done a good job of that. But employers want to know who you are. So, first and last name is great because you don't want to let iPhone ask the questions for you. And then dress for success. Treat it like an in person career fair. First impressions matter, even virtually. Be in a set location and give 100% attention. I always say no driving during the event, but if you absolutely must be on the move, keep your camera off and listen in only until you're in a safe spot. Have a PDF of your resume. So, just to reiterate what Katie said, you want to use a PDF because it locks the formatting. So, if you've got like the nice bullets or tables on your resume, if you upload it as a Word document, it can skew that format. So, PDF is a fixed format document. So, use a PDF. I referenced it earlier, but creating that dedicated job search email and update your resume with it. Like I said, your old Gmail account that gets 100 spam emails a day could cause you to miss a recruiter's message. And then update your LinkedIn URL so it's clean and professional. And I'll drop a link to how you can do that as well into the chat. And I'll reiterate what Katie posted in the chat there. When you go to send those LinkedIn connection requests, make sure to send a personalized note. So let them know, hey, it was so wonderful to meet you on the Heroes Make America Virtual Career Fair. I'd love to connect to stay in contact, or I'd love to connect to learn more about these specific roles, but make sure it's personalized. It's that little bit of attention to detail that matters. And I'll turn it over to Katie.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Let me just switch this. Now that we've done some legwork to prepare for the upcoming career fair or employer event, whatever you might be attending, there's some things that we want to talk through when it comes to being successful at the event itself. Prep is very important. That legwork, that time that you spent ahead of time is setting you up for success. But then we also need to show up and be successful at the event. So let's talk through some best practices. Let's talk through specifically this Friday, the event schedule. Let's talk through some technology aspects like navigating breakout rooms, because sometimes that's not something we do all the time. And I don't want that to be a barrier for you on Friday. And then once we do that, I'll go into those best practices when attending virtual and in-person career fairs. So this Friday, our industry-focused career fair, the event is scheduled from 11 to 2 Eastern. So make sure if you're not on Eastern time that you adjust accordingly for your time zone. But maybe unlike other virtual events that you've attended, so maybe you've attended other virtual career fairs, everyone kind of uses a different platform. We use the Zoom platform and we have structure to the event. So we want to make sure that you're logged in early and on time to ensure that you don't miss anything from the very beginning. Just so you're tracking, that first 45 minutes to an hour is dedicated to learning more about the premier employers. So we have a set number of employers who will be doing presentations. They'll be doing 5-minute presentations for you to get a sneak peek into their company and what locations that they have. This helps you learn some big picture details on those companies before jumping into the breakout rooms to learn more. So think of this as supplemental to the research you've already done, right? So part of it is you're doing your own research ahead of time, but now you're getting a sneak peek into these premier employers, because sometimes even a website doesn't tell their whole story, right? So hearing it from the company recruiters learning more about that company will help you then decide, am I going to attend that breakout room? For any career fair, though, you decide to attend, whether it's virtual or in person, be sure to look over the event schedule. Even in person events sometimes have set timing for certain aspects, and you want to make sure that you're not missing anything. So always check out that event schedule ahead of time after you register, in addition to your research of the employers who will be there. So, like I mentioned, this Friday, we will be using the Zoom platform. Really, we use this to help facilitate a more direct conversation between you and the employers. And because of that, the first hour we do those presentations where we're all together in the same room, and then we open the breakout rooms, and you'll see all 15 employers, and you'll be able to navigate back and forth between the breakout rooms. I have created sample ones for today's event. So what I want you to do is kind of don't go into the breakout room, but look on your control panel. You probably can see now there's a 4 squares icon. You click on that and it should open the breakout rooms. If you don't see that icon, there might be a more. So it's a circle with 3 dots that says more. If you click that, it should open a list and you should be able to select breakout rooms, and then it'll show the window like I have here on the bottom right, what it looks like. Today is just a sample, but I want you to be able to see what that looks like ahead of time, so then it's not a barrier for you on Friday trying to navigate. If you don't see the breakout rooms here today, it might be because your app needs updating. So if you're on your phone, the app might be up and might need some updating. Or if you're logged in today, maybe you got a notification that you dismissed, but maybe there's some updates that need to happen. So just make sure that you are ready for that and you know how to find those breakout rooms. And really, whatever career fair platform you are attending, just make sure you do a little bit of research ahead of time so that you are prepared for the event technology aspect piece. All right, so let's talk about some best practices. Research, half the battle. Next, when we get to the event itself, do be sure to log in on time. Really, what I recommend is set a calendar reminder. So, however you remind yourself, set a calendar reminder to start, to go off 10 minutes before the start time of the event. This ensures you're ready and avoids any technical issues. For virtual events, you might be placed in a waiting room. So, on Friday, you'll be placed in a waiting room, but still log in 10 minutes early, hang out. Make sure that your camera's working, that your mic's working. You can test all your features ahead of time, and really, test your tech. Make sure that when you do log into the event, so when you come into the actual event from the waiting room, just make sure your mic is muted. We do have it selected to where it'll automatically mute you when you enter, but just giving you the heads up, be aware of where you're at. If you're not, at a computer at home in a quiet space, if you're in a public place, just make sure that you are muted so that it's not disrupting the event itself. The next thing I do recommend is be on camera. That is going to be more fruitful to be on camera and being able to directly engage with employers as if you were at an in-person career fair so that they could put a face to a name. But with that, do pay attention to your nonverbals. Be, have good posture, maintain eye contact, looking at the camera, avoid distracting behaviors. So things like checking your phone, eating during the event, and then also be mindful of your background. So like Rachel had mentioned, utilizing those virtual backgrounds, but just be mindful of your space and how you're coming across on the video as well. Another thing that I do recommend is being an active participant and being engaged. It's very easy on a virtual career fair to be a little black box with no picture, and kind of just hang out. If if we're on the shyer side, I think it's okay to get your feet wet, get into these breakout rooms. Maybe we're a fly on the wall in the beginning, but still be an active participant, utilizing that chat feature to ask any questions. You can engage directly with the employers. There's that direct messaging feature. So maybe we don't have our camera on immediately, use the chat. But I still encourage you, once you get your feet wet and you have a question, come off of mute, turn on your camera, and really ask and participate in the event. Okay. A couple different things. Rachel had mentioned, prepare your introduction. So making sure that you introduce yourself clearly, sharing your name, your background, career interests in a short and confident statement. I will say, caveat though, oftentimes we don't know how our skills translate to the industry. Okay, so we may say, this is, my name's Kay Bowerman. I'm interested in these type of roles, not knowing that there's a whole bunch of other roles that are applicable to your skill set. So you could say something along the lines of, I'm interested in these type of positions, but really am open to exploring other opportunities that may align with my skill sets as well. So, having them help work through with you what type of positions they have that your skill set, they can help you identify what positions might be good for your skill set. I do recommend when you're in those breakout rooms, do listen to other people's questions. Sometimes we don't know what to ask and someone asks a very good question, so actively participate in the conversation also means actively listening to the other questions that are happening. And then of course, networking intentionally. Don't dismiss employers if you don't recognize them. Don't just jump out of a breakout room because we're nervous there's only one person in there. Network intentionally. Rachel and I will hang out in the lobby on Friday and we talk about this when we're in the lobby, but don't be afraid of those breakout rooms that don't have anyone in them because there will be an ebb and flow to the breakout rooms on Friday. Some people may flock to certain ones all at the same time. Others might be, low attendance. Sometimes going to the low attendance ones are better because you get more one-on-one attention with the employers themselves. So it can go either way, but I do recommend going to all the breakout rooms and really learning about each of the companies. And then lastly, as part of that engagement, ask for next steps. If I'm interested in position, who do I contact? Is there a talent community that I can input my resume on? Can I have a follow-up call with someone to talk more individually about my skills and opportunities that your company has? So always ask for those next steps. Another thing that I do recommend, another best practice is, just being respectful in the breakout room. We're all in it together. So keeping your contributions to those that are helpful and considerate, maybe wait until the host opens the floor for questions, because sometimes the presenters, the employers will have like a presentation that they do, and then they'll do a Q&A session. So just be mindful of the flow of how that employer is structuring their breakout room, instead of interrupting and kind of bringing up questions in the middle of their presentation. Always throw them in the chat. They might be able to do a bounce back, Q&A during their event as well. The last thing I do recommend is provide feedback, whether it's in the moment to those employers of, this was really helpful, positive feedback, or, I wish I had this, or whatever it might be. Providing feedback is always very helpful. And then in addition, when you're leaving the event, there is a survey that pops up when you're leaving the event. So on Friday, you're done for the day, the event is closing out, you exit Zoom, there should be a survey that pops up in your web browser. Please just take a moment. It's like 7 questions, real quick, a couple minutes to take that survey, but we love to get your feedback so we can always evolve and make these events better for you for the next time. So those are just some things that I recommend during the day of. The biggest ones being an active participant, having your research readily available and having those questions that you want to ask readily available. And then don't be shy. These employers are here for you. They literally want you. They're looking for military talent. They want your skill sets. So take advantage of this opportunity, because there's a lot of times you don't have access to, hiring managers or HR generalists or people to ask questions when you're just looking on a website. That's probably my biggest piece of advice, is actively participate in those breakout rooms. So I'll pause there and I'll pass it back to Rachel to talk through what are some things to do after the event.
Thanks, Katie. And I just want to reiterate, as Katie wraps up the what happens during the event, is that Katie and I will be in that lobby. So come out, and it can be a lot, right? These virtual conversations, being on, Zoom call for that long. Come out into the breakout room, take a moment to write down your notes, decompress, maybe ask us questions. If the conversation, maybe you asked a question, you didn't get the answer you were looking for, maybe we can help you figure out how to reword it, or just to have some dialogue, right? Give yourself some time to digest that information. But the breakout room is, or the lobby is a safe space, whether you're just coming in to put your notes down, or if you want to talk with Katie and I to ask for feedback. So you've made some great connections, you've grabbed employer contacts, and you've had those first conversations. So now what? Don't worry, we've got you covered. The next few slides will really walk you through exactly what to do next to make the most of your career fair experience. So just because you hit leave meeting doesn't mean that the career fair is over. The real work and opportunities happen after. That's why we've pulled together this flow chart to kind of give you clear next steps on how to keep that momentum going. So keep checking out the employers, okay? They're always adding new roles. A lot of these employers are also going to have like talent portals that you can sign up for. You can set some guidelines in terms of locations that you're interested in, career pathways that you're interested in. So as those new jobs are posted, you're getting that notification directly to your inbox so that you can apply promptly. So if they've got those talent portals and that's a company you're really interested in, make sure to register for those. Follow up on anything that they've asked for. As an example, sending your resume, right? You want to be prompt in those responses. We'll talk through kind of a sample follow up email that you can send, but just make sure that if they ask for information from you, that you get it to them in a timely manner. That's where coming back to that breakout room, back out of there into the lobby, can be really beneficial because you can write down, right? You can have like, these are my deliverables from the event. I need to send this to Anheuser-Busch, or I need to send this to Caterpillar. So making sure to reference what your follow-on tasks are. Connecting on LinkedIn and growing your network. Even if they don't have the right fit today, they might tomorrow. And like we said before, making sure that we're sending a note with our connection request, identifying where we met them at, thanking them for their time, asking maybe if you want to schedule a follow-up meeting with them, but make sure to connect with all of those folks because I'll also add the recruiting world is really big, but it's also really small. A lot of recruiters work for different companies, or they may know somebody at a company that's in the area you're going back to. So, growing that network, right? It's just increasing visibility for yourself. Set up those quick follow up calls or informational interviews to dig deeper to make sure that that company is the right fit. Um, Sending a post event email about opportunities you're excited about. We're going to show you a sample here in just another slide. And then apply because that's the real goal here, right? We want you to land that next career. And as a part of that application process, loop us in if you apply to one of our partner employers. So, one of those companies that attends our events, you can shoot us an email at heroes@nam.org to let us know. And then that way, we can reach out to that company on your behalf as well and say, hey, this individual attended our virtual career fair. They let us know that they applied for this position. We want to create some visibility around that application, right? So leveraging your network, right? Talking about that network more. And then share your wins with us. We want to celebrate your progress, right? Did you get the interview? Did you get a job offer? Do you need help navigating a job offer? And then finally, preparing for the next event. So do a quick after action review. What worked? What didn't work? And maybe what you'll tweak for next time, right? Did you ask a question a certain way in one breakout room and got an answer that maybe wasn't what you were looking for? And then you asked it a different way in another breakout room and you got a better response? Tweaking and refining that process, it's a learning curve, right? It's the same thing with in person interviews. The more you do it, the better you get at it, the more refined you become in the things that you're asking for. And then I want to take a moment here to kind of talk about sending those post event emails. So, this is a really great example of how one of our Heroes Make America alumni followed up with employers after one of our virtual career fairs. So, there's a few things that I want to really point out. So, she started by introducing herself and reminding them of how they met. So, this is going to add that credibility and keeps the email from feeling like spam. Right. So, I had the opportunity to virtually connect during the recent Heroes Make America career fair. Boom. Okay. Immediately I remember that event. She then showed that she had done her homework by mentioning specific roles that she was interested in and where they were located. So sometimes it can be hard for an employer if you say, I have a supply and logistics background. What jobs do you have available for me? Right? Put a little bit of effort in, right? I've identified these roles. These are the roles that I'm interested in. It allows for a more guided conversation between you and that employer as well. And then she made a really clear ask, right? May I get some guidance before I apply? Which is one of the things that I really loved about this email. So, one, it showed intent and genuine interest, not just I applied, can you help me get the job? But it was more of I'm being proactive versus reactive, right? I'm really interested in these jobs. I'm attaching my resume. Can you give me some guidance or some feedback on things I might need to tweak? A lot of employers, especially ones that we work with, they're willing to put that effort in, right? Because the goal is they want to bring you into their organization. The process to hire employees, it's hard, right? So you doing this work and engaging with them, it's only helping them. So they're willing to put in a little bit of time to say, yeah, your resume looks perfect for that external logistics leader, but for that quality manager position, we really want to kind of target these key things. Um, and finally, she thanked them. So that's a really small touch that goes a long way, right? So I always call it a thank you sandwich, right? So you're starting it out with something really positive. It was so great to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to read my email. Kind of here's my ask, what I'm requesting from you, the support that I could use, and then thanking them for their time. Okay, so it's really important. All of those little aspects just go a really long way, and can provide you some really positive responses, because there's nothing more frustrating than sending 50 emails and getting no responses, because you sent an email that said, hey, my name's Joe. I applied for this job. Can you help? Ooh, it's a lot better if you tell me how you got my email, Joe, and let me know why you're interested in this job. So a little bit of effort goes a really long way. And then you can go to the next slide. Thanks, Katie. So as we start to wrap up, we also want you to see what employers get after the event. So while we're telling you to do work, we're also telling employers to do work as well, right? It's a two-way street. So we're encouraging you to follow up. We're asking the same of them. If you register, they're going to receive your registration info. And if you uploaded your resume, they'll get that too. So this is just another reason that it's so important to go back and edit your registration if you didn't initially include it. So once again, you're going to go back to that initial registration email, scroll down and click modify registration, and you can upload that resume. You could even do that immediately after the career fair. And then be ready for them to reach out. So, checking your email and phone regularly. This is once again why having a dedicated job search email can really help things from getting lost. Also, making sure that your voicemail is set up and your inbox isn't full, right? It's really hard to call and leave you a message to tell you that I'd love to have a conversation with you about a job I think you'd be a good fit for if your voicemail box is full. Recruiters, talent acquisition teams, they're not text messaging as frequently. So, voicemail and email are primarily how you're going to get connected to them. And then, most importantly, is responding quickly, right? Jobs fill fast. They're wanting to get people in, right? Because it's a business need, right? The longer they have a job open, it impacts um, business drive. So, I always recommend Monday through Friday being able to respond within 24 to 48 hours. And it's okay if a company reaches out and you've decided that that company is not a right fit for you, to send a polite email back. Thank you so much for reaching out. At this time, I didn't see any positions that I'm interested in, but this could also be a caveat where you could add in, I'm looking for roles in this location and in these career pathways that I didn't see on your website. That way they kind of know what you're looking for. Um, because if you wait too long, right, it signals a lack of attention to detail and timeliness. And then by then, the employer has likely moved on. So being timely is really, really important as we are looking at responding to those emails. So you may see some blanket emails that come in from employers that says, hey, thanks so much for attending the virtual career fair. Here's our career website. Here's how to contact us. Have those conversations. I firmly believe that you should engage with every single employer. It's never a no in my book until the job offer comes in, right? Everything should always be a yes if an employer wants to engage with you, because you never know what opportunities there might actually be. Like, they could have something in the pipeline that hasn't gone live on their website and they're starting to identify potential candidates. and you can have yourself at the top of their short list before that position's even posted. It's good practice talking with employers, and there may be jobs that you didn't think of and apply for because once again, job titles can be deceiving. And like I said, it's when you get that actual job offer that you may have to say, that, this isn't the right fit for me, or other variables. But I would encourage you to engage and interact with every employer that you can, um, because practice makes perfect. So with that, we've got a few minutes here, so we're going to roll into the Q&A session. So what questions do you guys have for us?
All right, we do have some that have rolled in, and then I also made some notes of things that always spark my memory as you're talking. And I'm like, oh, we should mention that. But let's go to the Q&A first because I want to make sure they get answered. So
Yes.
one question is in regard to success rates from virtual events like this one coming up on Friday. I will put a caveat out there of we don't always know what happens after the event, right? We don't track exactly who hires who and whatever unless people tell us. So we like those success stories to be told back to us so that we can share it with you all as future job seekers. But I will say we have had success stories. We've been doing this for, I guess we're on year 3, 4, doing the career fairs. We've always had some feedback of I got this job because of the career fair. And maybe it's not immediately after the career fair, maybe it's 3 months later, 6 months later, but that networking started to take place at the career fair, and eventually the position was offered. So there are success stories. I will also say it really depends on the job seeker. The ball is in your court, and how much follow up you conduct, how much engagement you have with the employers. The more engaged you are and active in the conversation, the more fruitful your job search is going to be. And that's in general when it comes to networking and job searching. Rachel, would you agree? Are there any other things you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I think, like Katie said, a caveat is all of the information we get about success from our career fairs is dependent on people coming back and giving us feedback. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really great about reaching out to people after I attend a career fair and being like, "Thank you so much. I got a job as a result of this." So you guys, you have to help us by making sure that you share that feedback with us. And then I think it's like Katie said, it's really so impactful what you do as part of your follow up. And I think this kind of ties into also a question that Michael asked, where he asked about why does it take so long to hear back after we apply? How can we check on the status? Those are good questions to also ask when you're in the breakout room, right? So when you're in the breakout room, you could ask, if I go in and I apply for this job today, when should I expect to hear something back on my application? I encourage everybody as you apply for jobs to always follow up if you can, whether that's identifying a POC off of the company's website, if it's a local facility to you, calling or popping in there, but just that follow through of reaching out and saying, "Hey, I applied for this position. I'm really interested in your organization. This is why I think I'd be a great fit for that job." It automatically puts your name front and center for a recruiter or a talent acquisition person. So maybe you weren't initially in line for that position, but I'm going to take the time to go now look at your application because you've put your name front and center for me. So don't be afraid to follow up. And when you follow up, to ask those timelines. When are you going to be reaching out to folks? When should I expect to hear something? Because it sets a timeline for you in terms of when you can follow up. Because let's say they say, well, we'll be reaching out starting on Friday. Maybe that following Tuesday, if you haven't heard anything, you send a note. Just wanted to follow up. You had let me know that you would be reaching out to folks on Friday. I hadn't heard anything, but I'm still incredibly interested in this position and wanted to re-engage. So help let the employer define those things as well.
And the waiting is stressful. I know
It
Michael
is.
had put that in there. I've, as a military spouse, I have job searched several times, so I completely understand the process and the stress that comes with it. But asking those questions are going to give you a best chance of at least having a guideline of how long. Because sometimes it'll be we're moving fast. We need to hire this person and start in 3 weeks. But other positions, they may be looking 3, 4 months down the line. And sometimes that's dependent on the level of position you are applying for. So maybe a maintenance tech position, high demand, they need you to start yesterday. So they may move very quickly with a position like that versus a more senior role. Maybe there's multiple rounds to interviews. And so they might take a little bit longer. So asking that question is key. I do have another question here about, will the companies have a list of the areas they are located in, which we know, you have a place in mind, you have a geographical location in mind of where you want to land. If you look at that employer details spreadsheet, there is a column. If the company may only have operations in a select number of states, they've listed out those specific states. If it says nationwide or international, that means they have a lot of locations. Like Niagara Bottling has like 24 states that they operate in. So they don't list them all because there's a lot of them. And so it should be on the spreadsheet. If it's not, that's a great question to ask. But either way, still ask in the breakout room because there might be one-off positions where they mainly operate in these 3 states, but they have some one-off positions in these other states. So asking that question is very appropriate for the breakout rooms. And we've instructed the employers to tell you where the locations they operate in. So we've told them that that's something you guys always ask for. Let's see, Rachel, what's the next question?
Let's see here. I think Michael's was the next one, but I know I kind of touched base on that
Yep.
as part of my answer to Marcus. So the next one would be, are some of the companies connected with government services?
Do you want to answer that or do you want me to take that?
I'll let you take that one, Katie. I'm going to respond to Laura here in the chat.
Sure. Sure. I would say they're not, because when you say that comment of connected to government services, there's kind of a few things that could be happening here. If you're thinking, are they hiring for GS positions specifically? No, these are not GS position type of companies, but some of them do have government contracts that they do. For example, there's an aerospace manufacturer that may make certain helicopters or planes that are contracted with the military or other similar situations where they might be the manufacturer of a government equipment that they might have that contract. So not GS positions, they're civilian positions, but they might still work with the government in one way, shape, or another. Okay, not all of them will, but some do. See, I have another one. I received an email from a company saying they're looking forward to chatting with me at the virtual career fair, which is perfect. We instructed them to reach out to you guys starting today. I would say respond if you feel like, yes, I'm looking forward to meeting you on Friday. Here again is my resume. These are the types of positions I'm looking for. I look forward to talking with you. Engagement is positive, whatever it might be, even if it's a simple response of, thank you for your email. I look forward to meeting with you. I would say yes.
Yeah, I would say you
Um,
could also, the specific company, you could hop on their website as well and potentially look to see if there's any career opportunities that you're interested in. And then that way, when you respond back, yes, I'm so excited to meet with you. I checked out your website and I'm really interested in learning more about these careers within your organization. And I look forward to seeing you in the breakout room. So, once again, kind of flagging for them too the types of roles that they should be prepared to talk about in those breakout sessions as well.
And I think that also goes to Jeff's question of, do you see hiring managers participating directly in these kinds of events, or is it mostly HR recruiters? Because if you send that email today saying, I'm looking at these positions, and they were on the fence on whether or not they were going to ask their coworker, Mr. Hiring Manager, to come to the event or not, maybe your question just prompted that, yes, that hiring manager needs to participate on Friday. So I think that would help. Some of the companies are planning on bringing some hiring managers, but I will say at minimum, they all will have HR talent acquisition folks who are present. That is going to be the main person who's present at these events, but some of them do bring hiring managers so you can ask more specific questions about different functional areas. And when we say functional areas in manufacturing, there's a lot of different departments that make the magic happen. And if you're not familiar with a manufacturing company, you've got that operation production line. So the folks who are actually making whatever they're making. So we have the production team, all levels of leadership within it. But then you've got the maintenance department, you've got the quality assurance department, you've got the safety and EHS, you've got the logistics and warehousing and supply chain, you have the business units, which include accounting, talent acquisition, HR, finance, all the IT, the business functions that make the company work, and hire those folks who are on the shop floor. So there's a lot of different types of positions that these companies have. So lots of opportunities. And sometimes, yes, they'll bring hiring managers from those different departments or functional areas. So hopefully that answered the question. Let's see.
And we have one from Jorge
Uh,
that says, not related to this upcoming event, but I was contacted by an employer via LinkedIn requesting an initial phone call to see if I fit for the position. Should I apply prior to having the initial phone call? Should I reply to the employer via LinkedIn, thanking them for the consideration? So I think it's absolutely okay to have a kind of an informational session with an employer prior to applying. I think it allows your if you decide to apply, it's very intentional, right? And the nice thing too is if you have this call and they're like, oh, yeah, we think you'd be a wonderful fit for this position and you apply, then it's, hey, let us know once you've applied and you can follow up. And so that they're looking for that. The other nice thing about those informational calls is maybe you're not the right fit for that position, but based on your conversation, they're like, hey, you weren't the right fit for this position. However, we think you'd be a great fit for these other positions that we'd like you to apply for. And once again, now you've got that internal referral so that when you do apply for those positions, you follow up with that individual and just flag for them, hey, thank you so much for the conversation. I went in and applied for these 3 positions. Please let me know what the next steps are or when I should expect to hear from somebody. Katie, anything you'd add?
Completely agree. I don't think it's a bad idea to have the conversation before you apply, because maybe there's things that you can adjust in your resume, or that application that makes you more competitive for the position. So I do like that. Just make sure you're timely, because if that application has a window or that job posting has a window, you don't want to miss it. So make sure you're timely in that response. I am going to ask Renee, if you can drop in the list of employers again. Some folks, maybe they didn't get it when we first were talking about it. So if you don't mind dropping it in the chat. So Laura, the list of employers participating on Friday, we're going to drop in the contact spreadsheet so you can see who all is there. Also, if you go to the event page, it's got a dynamic, link to each of the company's career pages. So you can always go on there, click on their logos, and go directly to their company page.
Thanks,
Okay.
Katie. And I do
Yeah.
see Marcus did ask, are companies that are invited to attend the event fully aware of the Heroes Make America Future Smart Resume concept? So happy to tackle this conversation. Marcus, you're likely one of our current students. So the Smart Resume and our Manufacturing Readiness Badging Project, that is a relatively new um, concept. We are kind of on the front cutting edge of that, but I would say I know of at least 4, if not 5 of the companies that are on this call that are already involved in those conversations. So Anheuser-Busch, Atlas Copco, Coca-Cola, Gulfstream, Niagara Bottling, are already all in the conversations around that. But it's also a great way if you're using a smart resume to even have a conversation with an employer to say, hey, I've earned these badges that indicate that I'm ready for these types of manufacturing careers. My resume captures those badges and provides you quick summaries of what those badges are and how they align with your organization. So even if they're not currently in the Smart Resume platform, you can still leverage that resume with them.
And I recommend having both the smart
Yes.
resume and your other version of your resume, having both of those readily available for Friday, because you can always send them both, right? If they're a little different, because it has all the badges on there. Let's see, question. Will the companies be aligned to where the HMA program areas are? So where our training locations are. They're nationwide employers. So some are going to be in Georgia, some aren't going to be in Georgia. Some are closer to Savannah, some aren't. Maybe they're by Atlanta or another part of Georgia. So it really just depends, because we do have nationwide employers who will be there. I will say with that though, I know many of us, and as a military spouse, we have an idea in our brain of where we want to end up post separation. But also be open to the idea of talking with these companies about other locations. I will say, I can't tell you how many of my students have accepted jobs in a location they didn't originally plan to go to because the opportunity aligned so greatly with what they were looking for that the location ended up coming second. So just keep an open mind when you're talking to these companies. I get it if you own a house somewhere, maybe we're geographically bound, that's a different story. But if we don't have those restrictions, maybe still look at these other locations because what happens, sometimes you just have to get your foot in the door. Maybe you work for a company in that particular location for a year or two, and then it's transferring to another location that's closer to where you want to be um, after you've already been an employee there for a certain amount of time. Okay, so that's just something to keep in the back of your mind, as every transitioning service member probably has a location in their mind. Just be open to hearing about opportunities at other places because it might be the perfect fit for actually what you're looking for. Let's see.
Yeah, I think the next question, Katie, I think Zechariah asked about using business cards instead of bringing resumes to career fairs. Would you say it's better to bring your resume or to have business cards made and follow up? What are your thoughts on it, Katie? And then I'll share mine.
I would say always have your resume. I would say it's not an either or, but maybe a and kind of situation. Definitely have your resume available. If you're in an online virtual event like we have on Friday, of course, it's easy, it's accessible on your computer. But if you're going in person to an event, have at least a few copies of your resume printed because some companies will ask for them. However, some are like, no, you've got to apply online, so they won't even take them. But you want to have that available for those who do. But then having the business card digitally is a good option because maybe that's a better way for them to get in contact with you or for them to follow up. So I would say it's an and, not necessarily an or. But I don't think digital business cards are required. That's really an extra, in my opinion. Rachel, I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm of the same mindset. I think I would prefer that you came in with both if you were choosing to do that, and then you could leave it up to the employer, especially from like an in-person perspective, because some will be like, "Oh yeah, I have so many resumes; it's a little bit harder to manage. Just give me that business card." And if you're going to give them a business card, my recommendation would be maybe to, if you have the ability to link them to your resume, or because you could upload your resume to your LinkedIn account as well. So you could add that under your featured section of your LinkedIn so that they could very easily get to your resume. My experiences is most employers are going to want just a physical copy of that resume. So I would bring both. And then that way you don't get to an employer who says, I'd rather have your resume and all you've got is the business card. So having it ready and available right then and there is a great idea.
I agree. I have a question from Devin about applying through LinkedIn. How do I follow up? First thing I want to mention is finding jobs on LinkedIn is a great way to job search. I highly, highly recommend it. However, I do always recommend going to the company's direct website to apply for positions. So even if it's posted on LinkedIn and it says apply now and you apply through the LinkedIn platform, you always want to make sure you're redirected to the actual website. Couple reasons for that. Sometimes LinkedIn will have a position open, but it's not actually open on their website because it hasn't scrubbed yet or a recruiter hasn't taken it down off of LinkedIn. That job posting may not actually be active, what's listed on LinkedIn. The company website is going to be the most accurate listing of what is actually available. But if you do apply on LinkedIn and that's how they want you to apply, if they have a contact information listed on that job posting to follow up, by all means, send that person an email, call them. If not, then I would locate, that location for the company, try and find their HR department's number, and just call someone in HR and ask for an update status on your application. So that'd be my advice about always apply through the direct website, not LinkedIn itself, but use LinkedIn as a job searching tool. Am I missing anything on that, Rachel?
Nope, I agree. If you can do it on the
Okay.
company's website, do it on the company's website. But I did, Devin, just so you're tracking, we do have a POC that's listed on that employer details spreadsheet that we've dropped in the chat, but I also dropped Matt Squire's information off of that spreadsheet into the chat for you too. So,
Awesome. Thanks. There's another question about how many resumes to bring to an in-person career fair. Say it depends on your research, which brings me to a point that I had written down that I forgot to mention. Okay, we have 15 employers on Friday. You have about 2-ish hours to network in the breakout rooms. It's not a lot of time to really hit all of them. You can, but if you want to have really in-depth conversations, you're going to want to target. So part of your research today and tomorrow, look at the 15 companies, identify who are my top 5 to 8. Okay. Who are the top employers who I cannot miss their breakout room? I have to talk to them on Friday. Okay. Have that list and then have an idea of if there's extra time, maybe I have another 30 minutes. Who are going to be the other companies I do want to visit? Because I recommend staying the whole time, talk to all the employers because you just never know what you're going to learn. But come in with a game plan. So to your question, how many resumes do I need to bring? It'd be the same for an in-person career fair. If there's 30 companies that are going to be there, you got to come up with your top list, top 5, top 10 that you want to target. If you know you have 10 companies you want to talk to, then bring at least 10 resumes because you know you're going to talk to those 10 companies. So I think it depends on you and your research, how many companies are there, and how many you want to target. But rule of thumb, 5 to 10 at least in-person career fairs, so you have those available. Um, but yeah, so that's part of your research is coming up with that plan of action. Let's
yes.
see. And then when you do have, like, let's say I have an extra 30 minutes at the end to kind of schmooze with the other employers, I would take that as a learning opportunity to learn particularly 2 things about their segment of their sector of the industry, and then also learn about different positions. Okay, so what I mean by that is we're going to have aerospace companies, we're going to have product manufacturers, we're going to have pharmaceutical and med tech, we're going to have beverage and food and beverage manufacturers. Those are different segments of the industry. So maybe you're like, X company, you're not in the area I want to go to, but I'm really interested in working for an aerospace company. Maybe you have specific questions regarding that, so that you can go back and maybe there's a company in your area that you want to ask, specific questions to. So use it as a learning opportunity to learn about that particular sector of the industry. And then also still go on their website and look at positions because maybe you'll learn something about a position they have listed, although they're not in the area you want to go to. You're like, oh, I never even knew that was a position. Now I'm going to target that as an option in the companies that are in my area. Prime example, we always have logisticians because we have logistics classes in the Heroes Make America program. And you guys are very structured. I want warehousing and logistic, but not knowing that there's tons of other applicable positions based on your transferable skill set. One that we always love to put out there is a production planner or a maintenance coordinator. They're very logisticy in nature, but what you're doing is planning customer orders in a production schedule, or you're planning out maintenance schedules. Lots of logistics. You're not doing the maintenance, you're not doing the production, you're planning. But maybe we didn't look at those types of positions because in the title it says maintenance or production. That's where the research comes in. And those are the types of questions you can ask those employers when you've got that extra 30 minutes or whatever at the back end, to kind of still keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Another good example on job titles is I had it happen is um, people see the term engineering in the job title and they automatically assume that that disqualifies them if they don't have a degree. But Johnson and Johnson is a perfect example of they will title like their maintenance technicians are engineering technicians or engineering operations. And so if you don't go in and read the job description, you miss out on unique opportunities because the job title itself was misleading and you targeted yourself out. The company didn't. You targeted yourself out because you didn't take the time to read the position.
Yes. So don't judge a company by its name and don't judge a position by its title.
That's right.
This is all a learning opportunity. That's what career fairs are. They seem like a lot of pressure, like, oh, I have to get a job from this event. It's networking, it's learning, it's researching, it's making contacts. That's really the where the bread and butter of the career fair comes into play. And then if you get a job out of it, it's because of that work you put in. Um, so think of it that way. So don't be intimidated by it. Use it as a learning opportunity and a networking opportunity. Okay. Oh, those job titles that we said. So especially our logisticians, production planner is one where you're actually planning out. So as a manufacturer, they're going to get customer orders and they've got to plan out what order are we going to do these customer orders and what resources and raw materials do we need to set up in the line to make it happen. So production planner and then maintenance coordinators or something along those lines. Maybe you're a logistician in a maintenance unit. Okay, and you were coordinating all the maintenance coming in and out of the motor pool and all the parts coming in and out. Maintenance coordinator is the one who structures maybe the preventative maintenance, that schedule. Do I have the parts? Do I have everything we need? That could be a very logisticy type of job as well. And then, yeah, engineering technician is the one that Rachel had mentioned. We are already 6 minutes over time, Rachel.
It's because we always have such great conversations in these meetings. Maybe we need to make them longer.
Well, we do want to be mindful of y'all's time. So thank you for everyone who asked questions. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to put a little plug here. If you're one of our Heroes Make America students, do not let the conversation end here. Continue to ask your program manager at your location these types of questions to make sure that you're ready for Friday and ready for future events. Also, if you're a Hero student, utilizing Audrey. She is your placement manager. So especially as you're applying to these positions, don't send them to her individually. As a reminder, you've got your oh my goodness, why am I blanking on what's it called? What's Audrey
Group
get?
me.
Her
Oh, the
spreadsheet,
spreadsheet application tracker.
application tracker. So make sure that you're keeping track on the spreadsheet. And then after you've applied, so maybe on Friday or next Friday, send her that list of the positions you've applied to. Yeah, the application tracker. So just for our Hero students, and then also our Hero students, please feel free to wear your polo on Friday to identify yourself as a Hero student. And I know some of you already have the background as well. So I'll go ahead and close it down for the sake of time, but thank you all for being here. I hope this makes you more comfortable going into Friday's event and other events that you'll attend in person or virtually. Our goal is to make sure you're ready for the job search and that you're successful in finding employment post-military. So that's it for me. Rachel, any final thoughts before we let them go?
I was just dropping in the chat since we had referenced our heroes participants. For anyone who's a non-HMA participant, if you have any additional questions about the virtual career fair and or our in-person career fairs, or if you do apply for any of these companies after Friday's event, please email us at heroes@nam.org, and we'll do our best to support and answer those questions as well as engage those companies regarding your applications.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again, and we will see you next week. So join us. Wednesdays is our typical Heroes Connect time slot. Next week we have Anheuser-Busch, I think, is next week. So we do have
Yes.
AB for a specific session next week. So if you don't catch them this Friday, we'll have them next week. But we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great day, everyone.